It's me, Brianna, and you're listening to Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. Today we will be discussing Guardians of the Galaxy. Just to get the whole rigmarole, I'm joined by my friend Sam. And you can find us on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia and podcast services. If you do want to show us some extra love and get early access to all of our content, you can find us on patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. We'll keep it tame today. How are you? What have you been watching?
Not bad, busy as always. That's the check-in done. What have I been watching? Yesterday, as of day of recording, I saw Oppenheimer in theaters, as I suppose you would say in the States. Very, very, very good film.
Cinema.
Yeah, it's a cinema. It's theater. What are you talking about? Theater is where you go and see live performance. Yeah, it was a really good film. I think it's probably, you could say that there's recency bias involved, but having digested it for, best part of a day now. Well, yeah, over a day now, over 24 hours. I do think it's probably Christopher Nolan's best film. Just because I might find some of his other films more captivating and enthralling and, exciting. But I think in terms of an actual, just a film on a practical level of it, how it's constructed and paced and the performances across the board and the score and cinematography and everything, I think it's his sort of magnum opus, his best work. Multiple Oscar nominations, practically guaranteed, across the board in various categories. Probably best film, best actor, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, cinematography, visual effects, director, best. Yeah, I said best film. So yeah, I probably won't see it in theaters again as much as I might want to, just because it's not that bad, but taking a cinema trip, getting in the car, driving to the place, getting out and stuff, and then sitting down, it can be quite taxing physically. So I sort of have to pick and choose what I'm seeing. So yeah, I will be watching it again at some point, probably when it comes onto digital or streaming or something. And the only other thing I've watched is me and the family are watching Silo on Apple Plus.
I think that's
Plus,
what my
Apple
dad
TV.
and his girlfriend. Yeah, I think that's what they're watching too. Is it pretty good or meh? Or?
We're only 2 episodes in, but it is very, very good thus far. I won't say it's it's, you sort of need to, for a series, you kind of need to see whether it sticks the landing and where exactly it goes and the twists and turns and stuff. It's a bit too early to tell, but I'm thoroughly enjoying what I've watched thus far. Apple, they just like doing those weird shows, there's going from Severance.
They do,
got
yeah.
Silo. Ted Lasso's weird because who would want to watch a show about football?
Take that back.
No. But no, yeah, it's very good. So those are the only 2 things I've been watching as of late. Okay. And this film, obviously.
Okay. Cool beans. I had to look up. I was like, oh, what Christopher Nolan films are there? Because I don't even know what he's done. I've seen none of them besides The Prestige.
Jesus Christ.
And I then had to look up The Prestige versus The Illusionist because I couldn't remember which one was which.
God damn it.
So
I could forgive the Batman films. I could forgive those. I mean, it is a bit egregious not having seen at least The Dark Knight. But
I might have seen it sitting with somebody else, but I don't remember watching it. So
No Inception, no Interstellar,
no,
Memento.
no.
One of the most prolific, talented directors of our time doesn't put out a bad film, apart from Dunkirk. Dunkirk's a bit, meh. But yeah, Oppenheimer. I think not that he could level up because he's already like way up there, but I think that if he could level up again, it would be because of this film. I think.
Mm.
I think he's sort of maybe retaken a bit of the spotlight. Is a good way of putting it. Not that he was losing relevance, but he's sort of proven that he's still got it with this.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's pretty good praise. I doubt that I will be watching any of these. Besides maybe The Prestige.
But you've already seen that.
Yeah, but I liked it.
Hey, if you like The Prestige, you'll probably like a lot of Nolan's other stuff. It's all trippy and sort of thriller and in the
You
same
know
way that
what?
The
I'll
Prestige
watch
is.
Inception when you watch Paprika.
Maybe, never say never.
Whatever. All right. What else have I been, what have I been watching? Let's see. That's a good question. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy. What else have I watched? I've been watching a little bit of anime here and there. I've been watching Made in Abyss season 2, and that show is messed up, man. Messed up. It's like now been, I think I may have already said this somewhere on a podcast, but it's been banned to one episode a day because it gets too dark. Um
Oh,
yeah, there's like this like I won't give like spoilers, but there's like this pet kind of creature that hangs out with the characters. And there's a part that like it almost literally gets squished to death because one of like these weird monster things like just picks it up and like squishes it. And it's like it's awful. It was like yeah, it was really bad. I won't give you like the full description because it was really horrible. But yeah, really dark anime. Especially being about kids and stuff. So
you've got to say you're selling me on it.
it's actually really, really it's like it's the craziest world building I think I've ever seen. The world building is so good. Um, let's see. I think that's pretty much I mean, just watching a bunch of seasonal anime, wishing I was watching Across the Spider-Verse again, which is coming to streaming services in August. So I'm like counting down the days. I'm like, is it time yet? So I can not watch other films that I still haven't seen and or finished and just watch that again.
Infuriating.
Oh, I love it. Okay. All right. So I wanted to okay, two things. One, watching the intro again, obviously, as we always do.
Mhm.
Um, hey, we hit one of the scenes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can recall what's in the intro, but obviously, like with No Limits, for me, the screen just freezes and I don't get the audio either.
Mm, that's
Um,
so sad.
so I just see a woman falling from the ceiling, and then that's it. But
Yeah.
yes, he does a little leap towards the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that Guardian scene in there now. Or I guess like I've seen that now. I say we. You've probably seen it 20 times. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is I realized that there's a whole point of this, and I don't know why my brain hasn't like picked this up earlier, but the whole point of this is to review a movie that we've already like people should have already seen. So I'm actually going to remove having any spoiler free sections whatsoever because like what are people watching this for like 5 minutes? Do you know what I mean?
Hey, you've
So
got your hands on the steering wheel.
I do. So I am going to change it. I do still want to do general thoughts, but I'm going to remove like the spoiler free part because I do think it's good to like start the discussion kind of overall discussing like how did you feel about this film? Like what do you think? Like that kind of stuff. I think that's a good way to start, but I don't think we need to do necessarily like spoiler free. So
Okay.
I think that's what I want to do moving forward. So any objections?
No,
Okay.
not from me.
So then to start, just general thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy. I know you're gonna make me go first, so don't
I am
even.
going to make you go first.
I loved this film.
Mm.
This film was awesome. I don't. I think it may have been because I was sort of forced to watch it the first time I watched it. Um, that I just didn't like really even really want to be there. But this time, obviously, I watched it voluntarily, sort of, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on this film?
Um, yeah, it's good. Like that, it's very good. As we get more into it, interesting thoughts will come out. But um, no, I think it's undeniably probably the most unique film thus far. Um, both in terms of style and tone and setting and characters and all of that. Um, very refreshing. You know, I remember back when the film first came out, they were saying, you know, it's the 10th film in the MCU. And that was like such a big deal at the time. They made that kind of milestone, which seems, you know, minuscule in comparison now. But yeah, they were like, for our 10th film, we're going to do something completely different. Um, and it's weird to think that back then, the Guardians of the Galaxy, like basically nobody knew who they were, what they were about. They were one of the most obscure teams in the comics. Like everyone was like, this is just, it's not going to work. So many actors and creators passed up on being part of this film because they were like, this is the first Marvel film that's going to flop. And quite clearly it didn't. It did quite the opposite. So yeah, I don't think there's any arguing that this film isn't a resounding success.
Yeah, I really, yeah, no, I would agree. I think that this film has a lot of depth to it that I think I was a little bit surprised about. I felt like every once in a while, I felt like the English class version of myself was activating. I was like, "Oh, that symbolism." Just every once in a while. I tried to rein it in, but
It's all right.
every once in a while it happens. So yeah, pretty good film.
Mm.
Okay, soundtrack. This is obviously mostly licensed music. Um, Personally, I don't think I think the music was probably a little bit less generic, but still didn't super pick up on anything. This might be something that like for I suspect that there were themes like songs that are recognizable in this soundtrack, but because I am not familiar with it, probably will recognize it coming around later in the other
Yeah,
films.
yeah. There's a obviously I won't say anything specific, but there is a very clear Guardians theme that is used throughout this film at various occasions. But as we go into future stuff, like you say, you will be like, oh yeah, this is the melody that is played when the Guardians team up or do something cool, or you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you're just talking about the score, not necessarily the licensed tracks. When you're saying there's nothing that stands out,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd agree.
Have they replaced any of the licensing music, or did they only have to do that in the video game?
No, yeah, there's nothing changed
Okay.
here
Okay.
in sort of the Disney Plus version of this film. It's the exact same. Um, because I suppose it's worth bringing up here, James Gunn, the director, he specifically storyboards out various scenes across all of the Guardians films um, with a particular song in mind. So like he chooses, because not only this film but just Guardians in general is so built around these licensed tracks, not only for, you know, everybody likes listening to music that they like, that they know, and they can point and be like, oh yeah, I know that song, but also it's thematically relevant in this film,
Mm-hmm.
to Star-Lord as a character. Um, he will literally block out the entire soundtrack before he even storyboards one scene, and then he will storyboard a scene whilst playing the music, so that when he gets to shooting, he knows, he can choreograph it to such an extent that the music almost seems built for the scene that it's used in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. um so yeah, I think even if there were any licensing issues, Marvel would resolve them, because I think the film just, it's hard to say, but I don't think it would work if any of these tracks had to be replaced.
Okay, fair
Personally.
enough. Alrighty. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about the music. Mm, I don't think there's anything necessarily about the music that I wanted to say. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to. Okay, wait. I was really excited about this, so I kind of wanted to move to this. Thanos obviously gets mentioned like almost right away. Like
Mm-hmm.
like maybe 10 minutes into the film.
Yes.
Um and I was like, "Oh my gosh. I know who that is. Hey girl, hey." It's exactly what I said. No. So I thought that was interesting that we're getting Thanos introduced. For some reason, I just in my head, like I was like, oh, he's probably just not introduced until like Avengers. And so this was unexpected for me because
Mm-hmm.
obviously I wasn't paying attention the first time I watched this forever and ever ago. And so like I thought that was really interesting how they set that up. And I was very excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
that one dude that has the other Infinity Stone, or maybe he has two. I can't remember from Thor.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
I mean,
I thought that was
technically, we
cool.
saw him at the end of the first Avengers. In the
Yeah, but did he
credit
have
scene or
one or
whatever. But
two? I
we
couldn't
didn't see any
remember.
stones at that point, because
Oh,
that was like the reveal that he was going to be the big bad guy.
oh, okay.
So that was just him like turning his face to the camera and smirking, looking remarkably different than he does in this film, and going forward. But that's okay. He needs a little bit of redesign. Bit too purple bit too dark purple in
Mm,
the Avengers. So now he's looking a little
yeah, if
bit
he was
lighter
that dark
purple.
purple,
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
have ruined everything.
it would clashing with his outfit. Oh, no,
Can't have that.
no,
We got to stick to a color palette here.
yeah,
Okay, so other through line thing, Stanley,
yeah,
very beginning was hitting on that hitting on that lady, and they're like, "Oh, it's perfect," or whatever. I can't even remember what they
yeah.
said, but that cracked me up.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think if there's any other through line stuff. Yes, leading into other stuff, I guarantee they're going to come back to his dad at some point, and like, because obviously he's like half at towards the end of the film, we find out he's half human, Terran, whatever they call it,
Hmm.
half something else. What they said, it's like, oh, it's some ancient being. So clearly, like he's, in my opinion, based on like the context clues, he's like has to be a Star Lord, and like that's probably why his mom called him Star Lord, not as like just a nickname, but like as like, hey, this is your heritage kind of thing, or something very similar to Star Lord. Um, so that I think that that's related, and he's not just called Star Lord just because for kicks and giggles. Although I did appreciate his excitement when he's like, "Yes," because somebody called him Star Lord.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing otherwise. He's
Yeah.
a bit of a vapid person, at least to begin with. So
Yep.
yeah.
That happens a lot, it feels like, in these films.
Well, you've got to have a hero's journey, don't you? They've got to start off in a bit of a egotistical slash selfish place,
So, but
and
like, yeah, but like, this is so crazy. But like, I'm pretty sure that men have more personality traits than just I sleep with lots of women.
I suppose it depends on the man you're talking about, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
Don't want to give him too much credit.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yes, you would hope so, at the very least.
There has to be another way to tell this story of like, hey, he's not the best person, but now he's a hero, so he's a great person.
Yeah,
Like, there has to be another way. Like,
probably.
it cracks me up, man. Okay. Let's move to let's just go do like kind of like the story because I think that this is pretty rich story. Okay, is there any place in particular you want to start with discussing the story, or you just want to go through chronologically?
I'm game. I know
Okay.
this like the back of my hand, so if there's
Okay,
something
so
you need
we
to dive into, do it.
no, we'll just go chronologically. So we start in 1988 with Peter Quill as a kid, and in the most heartbreaking scene ever, does not take his mom's hand. That was so sad. I understand like the theme comes back around, whatever. He's like, I didn't take her hand the first time. I have to take your hand this time, whatever. But it was just so sad. Like okay, I really do understand that kids would do that. Like it just does break my heart that like that was like her one thing was like, hey, like I just want you with me
Yeah,
as I go. And he didn't take her hand because he was
yeah,
being a punk.
yeah.
So that whole thing. And then he immediately gets abducted, which we then find out later in the film he wasn't just picked up to be eaten. He was supposed to be taken to his dad, but the bad guys think that he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um that is so cute.
I don't know what
Anyway.
he's doing. He's barking at something.
What's his name? Yondu? Yeah. Yondu.
Yondu.
Um Okay. So that's basically it. So we from the very beginning of the film, he picks up the orb, which I think is interesting that they start like it feels like a lot of the times a heist like this would start with let's see him steal something else and then he's got to steal this thing that's like the main thing. But
Hmm.
the first thing he steals is the main thing. So I thought that was interesting. Um let's see. So yeah, so he goes to try and sell the orb. We kind of see like the whole thing with Gamora, her sister, being sent after Gamora and her sister being in the same room, and they're like, "Oh, those are Thanos' daughters, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to try and sell the orb, and Gamora tries to steal it, and then there's a huge fight between like Rocket, Groot, Gamora, and Quill, and all of that fun stuff. I thought that scene was kind of it's kind of cute. I have to say the fight scenes in this whole film are very well choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate
No,
that.
I mean, I think that's partly in certain scenes due to what I was saying about how James Gunn sort of storyboards his stuff. He's very meticulous, not even just in terms of like the music and stuff, but like just in general. Um, and I think that also doubles up with the fact that the Guardians have, for the most part, quite diverse like power sets or abilities or whatever. Particularly when you're talking about like Groot. Um, so it's important that in any given scene they take full advantage of whatever they have to hand in terms of their abilities.
Hmm.
They're fully utilized as characters. You aren't thinking like, oh well, why doesn't X character just do that? Most of the time they do the thing that would sort of make sense, which is again refreshing because a lot of the time you're sort of, well, Iron Man, you've got like missiles in your wrists. You could just very easily blow this thing up, and he doesn't. And you're like, why doesn't he do that? Whereas, if Groot needs to take out 5 people, he'll just ram his arm through all 5 of them and just
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm. Um. Okay. Let's see. So they're captured by Nova Corps and taken to Kiln prison, where they basically pick up Drax and then they escape, which that whole scene cracked me up. Groot, okay, Groot has to be like the best character in this film, right? Like he has to be, right? Because he's like, as soon as we get this battery, and then like he pulls the battery, and I'm like, this is just too perfect. Like
He's just
he's just,
an innocent little creature
I know he's so cute.
trying to be helpful.
I know he just takes he did like all of them just take things way too literally. Like all of them do. And like the whole thing with the leg, that was super funny. And that comes back later when he's like, "Hey, I need this guy's eye," and he's like, "He doesn't. He doesn't
Yeah,
need this guy's
Rocket's just got a weird thing for, you know, external appendages and stuff. He's a weird one, that
eye."
raccoon.
Classic pranks, just stealing
Yeah,
someone's prosthetic.
and Drax being unable to understand metaphors and stuff because his
I
people are.
did think that was very funny.
Yeah.
I did really appreciate that, like that whole like set up with like comedy, because then that's like repeated throughout, like where he's like taking things so literally, and he's like, I would not do that. Like,
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
that's not.
deadpan characters can be funny inherently, but I think that putting a spin on it and making it that his species is literally incapable of understanding, um, any kind of metaphor or simile or analogy or anything. That's a
Yeah,
very it's a fun way of doing just what is essentially a deadpan character. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was really good. And I think that like the dynamic between all of them is, they're basically all really stupid.
Hmm.
But they're stupid in different ways, and that's the only way that it works, which is, I think, really funny. I mean, I don't think Gamora is stupid. She's probably like the one like outlier, and she says it like, I'm surrounded by a bunch of idiots, which is so true. They're all like just kind of really stupid, and I think that that's probably what was cracking me up the most.
Well, and also they're all not great people. Like they're all pretty
Yeah.
terrible people. Like
Hmm.
Star Lord is obviously egotistical and he's looking out for himself. Gamora is a daughter of Thanos. She's done some pretty horrific things. Clearly, Drax is just this brute that is. I mean, he's called Drax the Destroyer, so quite clearly he's not a very nice person for good reason, as we learn. Um, but still. And then, I mean, Groot is innocent, but he is also like the henchman for Rocket, and Rocket is just this like bounty hunter who will take in anything and anyone that gets him money. So they all get
Who's
sort
his
of
voice actor?
what Rocket,
Mm-hmm.
Bradley Cooper,
Okay. Okay. That's what I thought.
which you don't. I don't hear. Like it's weird every time I'm reminded that it's Bradley Cooper. It's just really strange because if you really listen out, you can hear him, but more so than other voiceover roles that I've seen from other actors, not just in this film, but I just mean in any film, he does sort of disappear into the role more so than most others, I would say.
I think Vin Diesel also kind of disappears completely. I could not, unless I had known that that was him, I would not have been able to.
I suppose, but then that's a bit easier when he's literally just saying "I am Groot" over and over again. You know
One time he says, "We are Groot,"
what
which
he
is
does,
wildly
yes.
different.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it is. Technically, he's saying very different things each and every time, but
Yeah.
we don't get to hear that.
Yeah. Um, all right, let's see. You know, I also kind of like the idea. I'm sure Groot is talking to Rocket, but I do like the idea that Rocket is just like saying his thoughts out loud and Groot's not actually saying anything.
Yeah, he's just pretending, and Groot's looking at him like, "That's not what I said."
Yeah. He's just interpreting it. He's like, I know I gotta do this. And Groot's like, what? Anyway, that cracks
They
me
can
up. But
definitely understand each other.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so they get the orb back, leave the prison, all that fun stuff. Love that he goes to pick up his whatever. What is it called? Walkman?
yeah.
Yes. He goes to pick that up. and then they get his ship back, and then they leave. Then we have the whole scene between like Ronan and Thanos and all of that fun stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was interesting that he just like like he just like killed his like attendant guy
Yeah.
and no consequence.
Yeah, he's the guy who was what chastising Loki in Avengers, and now that guy's just dead. So, but it's clear that you know,
I did not catch that he was talking. Huh,
yeah,
interesting.
he's
Didn't
back
catch
in
that.
Avengers. He was the whenever Loki got teleported to where the weird spacey place that they are. He was
So then it was coming from Thanos, not actually that dude. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
yes, yeah, he's like the I don't know the mouthpiece for Thanos because Thanos can't be
Not
asked to
anymore.
talk, not anymore.
Rest in peace.
Whole head got turned around. Oh dear. Um,
That would suck.
but it's clear that even in Avengers, Loki was sent by Thanos to take over Earth. He was given um, the spear by Thanos, and now you can see that Ronan is kind of like not necessarily a direct henchman for Thanos, but he is again like Loki trying to get something from him in sort of like a mutual trade. Because Thanos be after those stones, but
Yeah,
but
that's
does
true.
does does Ronan let him have it? No,
No, I mean it does make sense, right? Like, oh, now that I know this is an Infinity Stone and this is lots of power, why would I even give this to you?
precisely because he
I
can
mean, it
just
does
cut
make
out the
sense.
middleman.
Yeah,
He can just
he's like, I can
use
just
that to
destroy
do
the
what he. Yeah,
planet
exactly,
now.
exactly.
It makes perfect sense to me.
It
So,
does.
okay, cool. Let's see. Da, da, da. So they end up going to Tanalier Tivan. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
And then to go sell the orb. They're trying to sell it to the collector. And then they go to a place called Nowhere, which I thought was interesting. I have a feeling that this will come back because it's supposed to be the severed head of like a celestial or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I assume it's coming back in the future.
Who
I
knows?
assume this is going to be a through line. So then Drax gets drunk, summons Ronan. They have like that whole fight thing where they try and get the stone. They do end up with the stone, and then Gamora is just like floating in space, and then Quill has Yondu come get them, and then they're saved. I'm kind of curious if they recorded that film that piece underwater because it kind of looked like they were underwater.
I think they did. I definitely think I remember reading that. I haven't researched it in years, but I'm pretty sure
Okay, yeah,
they
because it
did
looked
that
like he was
sequence.
like holding his breath, like underwater, holding his breath, which I guess
Yeah.
space would be kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that was interesting.
Mm.
Yondu arrives, saves them. I let's see. They come to agreement. Rocket, Drax, and Groot threaten to blow up the ship. They're like, either give us our friends or we're gonna blow everybody up. Which was so funny because he's like, we just established that you didn't try and save us, you just tried to blow us up. Goes back to like they're just all really dumb, but
Yeah.
I love it. They group up with Yandu, they group up with Novacor, and they all go try to get the Infinity Stone and stop the city from being destroyed. Okay, that ship is so cool though. That ship is so cool. I'm not usually into like sci-fi stuff as we've established, but like Ronan's ship is really cool ship. Like the way that it like it twists itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like
Yeah.
so intrigued. I would really love seeing like the blueprints. I'm sure they don't exist, but I would love seeing the blueprints of that ship. Like, is there like an inner part that's like suspended inside of the ship that like when those pieces turn, obviously like the other things don't turn inside, or is it like there's like a neutral gravity, so like when it turns, you can't tell that it's turning, like the whole ship wings and stuff. I don't know. I'm very interested in that ship. Um, So yeah, they have like that whole fight. They get to the stone eventually. They have that whole thing where they're like, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. And Groot dies, but not really. And yeah, all
Yeah,
that fun stuff. And then we get Baby Groot, which is probably the best part of the film.
doing a little dance
Oh,
to Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
yes. Um, I do think that the end scene, like the post credits scene, I thought that was funny, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be like a Disney reference in the end credits, but I could be wrong.
Are you talking about the duck?
Yeah.
That is not a Disney reference.
No? Okay.
It's a very deep cut character from the comics. Howard the
Oh.
Duck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Howard. Don't expect to see him again. That's just a
Yeah, I didn't think that was a through line, especially
no.
since there was an astronaut dog there.
Yeah, the cute little astronaut dog though
Yeah,
in his
very
little
cute.
spacesuit.
Very cute. Do you want to know?
Sorry.
Never mind. Okay, I'm gonna contain myself. I was just gonna. Never mind. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's see. Is there any okay, so that basically covers the plot. I do want to kind of like, especially towards the end of the plot. So with Novacore, I think that's I understand that they didn't have much to do with the film, but I do think it's a slightly weak point that the guy's like, yeah, I believe him, and they're like, okay, well, let's just help them. Like, that's a lot of resources to just be like randomly like, hey, this outlaw says that we're in danger. Like, I don't know. Like I understand like they had to kind of like bandage that stuff together, but that I do think that that's like slightly a weird like plot. I don't want to say a plot hole because they do explain it, but it's like a weak point in the plot. But other than that, I really do like the way that like Novacore comes in. Their ships are really cool. Like the whole thing where they like connect together. That was when my English brain was like, oh my god, this is so symbol like such symbolism.
Yeah.
um, I do say like I don't know. I won't get into that because then that's just it's too specific, but more ship stuff. Anyways, um, so yeah, so then they have that whole thing where they connect and then a bunch of them end up blowing up and all that stuff. And I really did enjoy that whole like not only like the choreography of the fight scene and like the CGI and stuff like that, but like there's a lot of really good character beats that were happening like along that whole section. And
Mm,
I think I really enjoyed that section, which I don't usually enjoy those super actiony sections.
yeah.
So I'm also surprised we didn't see any, or at least maybe I just missed it, but like I'm surprised. Like I feel like this would have been the time to see like a lot of those like creatures that we saw in Avengers. Like I think that would have been interesting.
What you mean, just randomly about, or
No, well, I guess they could be. Like when they were flying the ship, they could have just been like, "Hey, look, it's that weird whale thing."
um, yeah, I know what you mean, but I think that if they were included, there would probably be questions from the audience as to why Ronan wasn't using them as well, and then off of that, sort of like then that is that too similar to what they did with Loki in Avengers. You know, they sort of
Mm,
the narrative set it up that Ronan takes the stone and uses it and becomes super powerful, so he doesn't really like need anything because the whole thing's like he just needs to get on the surface of the planet and touch it with his hammer, and then it will, then it's game over. Um, so probably would have. I know what you mean, but I maybe it's copium, but like I think there is on the flip side enough justification, like narratively, for why they wouldn't make an appearance as well.
yeah, for sure. I just think it would have been like an interesting tie-in
Yeah,
to Avengers.
yeah. Even
So,
like I think the place that would have probably made most sense is when Ronan was speaking to Thanos. If you just saw them like, you know, worming their way around in the background or
mhm.
something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, hey, It's not there. What can I do? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No. How dare you? This is personal. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Okay. Let's see. You know what? Let's just start going through. Unless, is there anything more, anything specific you want to talk about with the plot?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
No.
So then let's go ahead and go back through here. Characters. So Yondu, I think, is a really interesting character. I assume he's coming back because his I don't want to say like power, but it is almost like a power. Like the way that he fights is really, really interesting. It's very clear, especially with that end scene when we see him kill all those people, that he could have killed like Star Lord, Peter Quill, whenever he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly he's sassy pants, one.
Yeah.
And like extension. Two, he's clearly very powerful. And I really hope that they utilize that, like at least somewhat in another film, because that his power is so interesting to me.
Yeah. And I might be preempting it, but I do want to raise it just in case it slipped past you. But did you hear what Yondu said at the end of the film?
No.
Oh.
I
It
mean,
might not
I
have been
literally heard it, but I don't think I
it.
picked anything
It
up.
might not have been Yondu. I think it was one of his lackeys speaking to him. But when they were getting back on the ship after Peter gives them the orb, he says, one of his mates says to Yondu, it's probably a good thing we didn't deliver him to his father like we were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier with it. With that's how we kind of know that his father is probably, because they're the bad guys are saying, bad guys, quote unquote, are saying that his dad is a bad guy.
Yeah. And that's the reason he was abducted from Earth. But they
No
didn't
way
deliver him to
Thanos is
him.
his dad, right?
I can neither confirm nor deny. I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh, crazy. The size difference, man. That's all I gotta say. No way. Anyways, okay, cool. Yes. So I did pick that up.
Hmm.
Um I also liked that he was like I want to say like he was proud that Peter Quill had like just not given him the right orb. He's like, oh, he switched it. He seemed like happy that he gave him the wrong
Well,
one.
and also he just likes the little ornaments.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
so
true.
when he opens it up and there's just a little troll doll in there, he's like, he's laughing that yeah he got duped or whatever, but he's also got another little addition because earlier in the film he was inspecting all the little
Yeah, he
trinkets in the
lost all
shop.
of his trinkets besides the one. Well, I
Well,
guess
you
now
know,
two.
now he's got his troll doll, so
I do enjoy trinkets.
yeah.
So you can't see, but there's trinkets literally covering my desk. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I respect it.
Yeah.
Don't like troll dolls, but I do like trinkets. Okay. So is there anything else you want to say about him? Or his
No,
crew, I
I
guess.
I I like Yondu. I'm a big fan of Michael Rooker as an actor. Um, so yeah, hopefully we see more of him.
Okay. Awesome. Nebula. Anything to
Hmm.
say about her? She's just kind of mean.
Um, yeah, I mean,
I think she'll come back, but
there's interesting. I think that's a general assumption you could probably make about most characters that show up in these films, just due to the nature of this
well, every once in a
the
while there's a
universe.
flop film that they just don't take advantage of some of the characters. So I can't trust anything just yet.
Trust me, from a retroactive perspective, none of these films have flopped, so it's
Okay.
probably a safe assumption that most of these threads will be picked back up, including
Okay.
characters.
Awesome.
But yes, I think Nebula is a bit one-dimensional here, but there is, I think, potential in what we're shown. Like, she's cybernetically enhanced, and we get hints that there's like a massive sort of rift and competition between Nebula and Gamora, sort of vying for Thanos's attention and approval.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you know Nebula keeps losing, and the bitterness that creates within her, as we see for certain parts of this film, I think that there is interesting groundwork laid for her character, but she isn't really got any substance in this film on its own.
I just Googled how tall Thanos is for
Pretty
fun.
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8'3" or 252 centimeters.
Big boy.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Nebula. She's just I think unless I didn't hear correctly, it sounds like they have more quote unquote siblings, because she's like, "Oh, you were my like you're the one I hated the least," or something like that. I can't remember exactly what she says. When she's talking to Gamora. But yeah, interesting. Who knows? You.
Yeah.
But I guess we're pretending that you don't.
Yeah, I have no idea. What are we watching again? What is this film called? Where am I?
Okay. Let's see. All right. So that's Nebula. I think that's a good lead into Gamora. Also think it is worth pointing out this does pass the Bechdel test.
Yes.
Because of Nebula and Gamora, and no other reason.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, Gamora. I like her. I really like her character. She is slightly generic, but I think that goes for Peter Quill as well. He is also slightly generic. But I think it's a lot of the times with comic books and this is happens in manga as well. The main characters sometimes end up being a little bit generic because it's easier for you to map yourself onto the character when they are more generic. But you also kind of end up missing some beats. Not that to say that they have like no character whatsoever. Just they do have some. Gamora more than Peter. Peter has like a lot more development in this film than she does. But I suspect that will be rectified most likely in the second one, would be my guess. So yeah, I liked her character. Definitely could have had more. I almost mistrust her because she is so like easygoing. She's like, yeah, this is so terrible. But I'm like, but you've been a horrible person like this whole time. So I don't know. I'm like hesitant to trust her. So something feels weird about her character. Like it feels like something's not lining up. But
yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just the way that she's positioned as a character. She's, the very first interaction between her and Quill, when he's trying to sell the orb near the beginning of the film, it's sort of, she's using subterfuge and sort of trying to mislead him into who she is and why she's there and what she's capable of. So I think that there's some of that, and the fact that she has an intrinsic link to Thanos, and sort of like, she makes it very clear that she is against him and trying to get away, but blood is thicker than water kind of thing, again, yeah, like you say, can she fully be trusted? I think in terms of just like her character in general, it's less what we see and more what we don't see, because she's pegged throughout the film as like this the deadliest woman in the galaxy, and I don't think that's ever quite realized. She's
Yeah.
shown to be a very competent fighter,
Mhm.
and very headstrong and very independent, and she doesn't need Quill's help and stuff. But I don't think there was never a point in this film where I was looking at her and thinking, Jesus Christ, look at the stuff she's doing. It's like, again, kind of what you said, but on a different tangent. What she's capable of and what she's shown to do, I probably would have guessed that most people on the team were also capable of if they were given a
Mhm.
sword. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Again, going back to what I said very early on in this episode, like the efficient and creative usage of powers and abilities, I think that Gamora is probably the one that is least taken advantage of in terms of
Mm.
how she's described versus how she's presented.
Yeah.
But as you say,
Almost like she's,
hopefully,
like, holding back, kind of? Mm.
potentially, yeah, but hopefully, there is plenty of room to grow potentially. So hopefully, we do
Yeah.
see a bit more of her in various regards.
Yeah. Okay. Also, have you heard the full saying for blood is thicker than water?
I mean, I thought I had, but apparently not.
No, okay, so this is actually really interesting. So the full saying is actually it's quoted backwards. I really love this saying actually. So it's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So actually like blood is meaning the bonds that you choose is more significant than the bonds of your family, right?
Interesting.
So it's actually like most people say it like blood is thicker than water, as in like, oh, the blood of your family, it's like is a stronger connection than like, but it actually means the exact opposite.
Well, I suppose that also technically works in this film as well, because it's
Yeah.
it's about choosing your family as opposed to necessarily being
Yeah.
beholden to the one you were given with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Interesting, right? I love that saying. Anyways.
yeah, that is interesting.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, Gamora. Let's do Drax next.
Yes.
Genuinely, I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was just having like an emotional moment or whatever that happens a lot with me, but I was really so sad for him. Like obviously it's sad that his like wife and daughter were killed. Like that whole thing is really sad or whatever, but I was like he was so passionate about this one thing about getting back to this dude. He doesn't even remember him. He doesn't care about him. Like such a lack of regard. And I know that happens a lot with villains, but for some reason it just made me so sad where he's like, he can't even like get a good hit on him. Like, like he doesn't
Yeah.
even know who this dude is. Like, that's so sad. Like, that's so sad. So that got me.
Yeah. I mean, same as saying, they're all sort of outlaws or bad people. They're all carrying a whole lot of trauma for various different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of shapes their decisions. And in most of the time, up until they meet each other, it's bad decisions, right? Um, but yeah, I think that it's good that you've picked up on it this soon. Because in conversations I've had with people that have watched everything, it's sort of not that they aren't cognizant of it, but that they often fail to bring it up when they discuss Drax as a character. That the amount of sadness that he is bearing, um, and he's obviously a very physically strong character, but I think that it's more the very subtle emotional strength that is under the surface,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is the most compelling thing about him to me. That yes, he's driven by revenge and whatnot, but at the same time, it almost kind of feels like he isn't. It's because he feels like he has to choose something to do because he doesn't have his wife and daughter anymore. So he's kind of just inherently leaned into this violent path rather than necessarily actively wanting it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, it's sort of he's driven by just that one thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, not that it's necessarily super present in this film or necessarily going forward. It's not a spoiler, but like I kind of feel like without that goal, he would feel incredibly lost. Like I get that vibe from him that
Yeah.
he's just clinging on to the idea of vengeance because he knows that without that, he has nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
his life is kind of lost his purpose, right? Like,
yeah, and
so.
that's all kind of reflected even in a happy moment at the end of the film. You know, they've defeated Ronin and they sort of get their ship back and they're a team now. But you know, Drax doesn't celebrate. He's like, yeah, Ronin's dead, but now, you know, he isn't the one that really killed my family. It was Thanos. Just like they've just had this victory and they've saved so many people, but immediately his mind is onto the next person that has to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and he's happy, sure. You know, he's enjoying the company and whatnot as much as his character can allow to be happy, if you know what I mean. But I think it's telling
Mm-hmm.
that everybody else is sort of, what do we do now? You know, hey, happy go lucky, we save the day, Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's like, there's still people that I need to kill to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it makes him probably, to me at least, I think the most interesting character in the film for me.
Mm. I do think he's a really interesting character as well. I will say, like, I think, like, just in terms of, like, okay, so I do want to call out that, like, I really think that this role was really well written
Mm-hmm.
for exactly who played him, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that sounds weird, but we see this, like, weird, like, I don't want to say it's weird, but, like, we see this pipeline of, like, wrestlers moving into acting and not really being actors, and so they end up, like, they, like, are super cheesy and, like, almost bland, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
this role kind of leans into that cheesy and bland because, like, his people can't understand metaphors, like, he speaks very literally, but it works because, like, of the character as well. And I really enjoyed that whole, like, oh, like, I was kinda, it's, like, almost like, you're almost hesitant, right? Because it's like, "Oh, well, this is a wrestler, like, is he gonna be good in the role?" Because frequently it doesn't work out well, but this worked out really well, and
The
I think
Rock.
the role,
Sorry.
I think he's
Sorry.
really good in Moana.
But that's just his voice, you know.
Okay,
That's
okay.
like
Fair. But yeah, I really enjoyed the role. Um, like,
yeah.
casting
I
and
think
everything.
I'm with you. I think that Batista is perfectly cast. He does the role incredibly well. It's subjective, obviously, but I think that he probably, in that vein, is the best actor out of the wrestlers that have moved into the acting profession.
Yeah.
Um, I would probably say Batista, then John Cena, then The Rock. Um,
Not Vin Diesel?
I mean, he wasn't really a wrestler.
Oh, was he? Not? I thought he
No,
was.
no, he's just
Let me
a guy
look.
who loves family and cars. You know,
He's
it's all about
such a
family.
dork. That's really how I feel about that. Oh my
Somehow he
god, I'm
keeps
so
making a lot of
sorry.
money.
He debuted on stage at age 7. My apologies.
Who?
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, wrestling is inherently a theatrical thing, right? Because
Oh,
it's not real.
they have a photo of his
Um,
signature on Wiki.
yeah, so it's not, you
Yeah.
know, it's performative wrestling. So it does make sense that a lot of wrestlers do transition, or that they start
Oh,
as
yeah,
actors and then
for
go into
sure.
wrestling and then back.
But
But
it
yeah,
it
I agree.
yeah.
Batista is
Okay.
great.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. So then let's go to Rocket.
Rocket.
Oh my god. Okay, so I really enjoyed his character. I think that he, again, like all of these characters are really well written. I think that it's very interesting that like he said like he didn't choose to exist, which I think like I understand. Like he's like I was literally like created as an experiment, and there's
Mm,
nobody like me. So that has to be pretty lonely, right? He's like Tigger.
yeah.
He's the only one.
I'm not sure Tigger was some medical scientific
No, but
experiment,
Tigger
but
is the only one. He goes on. Have you not seen the Tigger film where he goes to find?
I know
Okay.
you're. Yes, I'm following you,
Okay.
but
Okay.
you
Okay.
know,
Well, I love Winnie the Pooh, so I have to make sure.
you're making me
um,
think of like Winnie the Pooh, Tigger body horror stuff. Now that's
oh, have you seen that
why is his
TikTok
tail so springy? It's all
that's like
mechanical now.
about the oh my god. Okay, I'll send you that TikTok later because it's genuinely one of my favorite TikToks to think about. My mom gets so mad because it is like what if like Winnie the Pooh was like a horror film and it's like oh, it's so good. Anyways. Um so what was I gonna say about Rocket? Yeah, I mean, like, so the whole thing is like he's like, oh, like I didn't choose to be created, but like I don't think anybody does. Just saying, just like for the record, like nobody chose to be here.
Sure.
But also yes, he was made as an experiment, and I think that has to be hard because he's like cognizant enough of it that like, but there is literally no one like him, right? So like, what is he supposed to do? Like romance wise, like there's nobody he can really be with. There's nobody like him. Like there's like even companionship, like he has his friends now, but like there's again nobody that can really he's misunderstood. Nobody can
Yeah.
understand him. Anyways, he's just I think that he's also a sad character, as sassy and explosive as he is in many ways.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
sad.
yeah, like in the same way that Drax is, right? He's using aggression and pushing everybody away as a bit of a shield.
Yeah.
You know, and he very clearly cares deeply about Groot. Um,
Hmm.
Not just because they've clearly been a duo for quite some time, and that at the end of the day, if we're being pragmatic, Groot is like a bodyguard for Rocket, really. Um, so he has that sense of safety with Groot. And then, you know, at the end, when Groot sacrifices himself to save everyone, he gets upset, like he starts tearing up, and it's like, no, you'll die. Again, like Drax with his vengeance mission, it's like, well, how is Rocket going to cope if he doesn't have Groot? You know, because again, not that they're the same, because Groot isn't a scientific experiment, but they are both sort of abnormal creatures that could very easily be taken advantage of, or you know,
Hmm.
or abused, or whatnot. So I think that they find safety in one another. But you know, it's fine. He's got Baby Groot.
He does have Baby Groot. Baby Groot's so cute.
Although technically, I don't know whether this will upset you or not,
Oh god.
but technically, and James Gunn has confirmed this, Groot did die. So that Baby Groot is
Is his baby?
basically Groot's son.
Okay. Or
So
daughter,
that
how dare you?
version of Groot did die, but we got his descendant, even though he was like a little twiglet that obviously came off of main Groot. So we now Baby Groot is Groot's son.
That's really sad.
Yeah, but it makes his sacrifice to save them and him saying we are Groot that much more poignant.
Does it? I
It
just
does.
think it makes it more sad.
Sad and poignant often go hand in hand. You know.
Sure. Sure. Um, what was I gonna say? I don't remember. Yeah, Rocket's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have so I guess we're already talking about Groot. I love Groot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
What
can't
character?
not. You,
Yeah.
yeah. You can't not like him.
I mean,
Um,
I think that they very easily could have messed up his character.
sure. Sure.
Oh, do they actually call him
Um,
Groot too? That's so sad.
yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think there is a version of this film that having a CGI tree saying the same three words over and over again would become a bit, you know, uh,
I mean, he like Quinn says it, or Quill says it, right? He's like, "This is gonna get annoying really fast," but it
yeah,
never does.
it never does.
No, I mean, they had to be very careful with it, right? Like they couldn't overuse because he's very strong, right? So they can't like overuse his power. They can't
Mm.
overuse like his "I am Groot" or whatever. Like, like they have to be very careful with that character. So I think they did it really well.
Mm-hmm. And now he's dead.
Rest in peace. Okay. Anything else you want to say about Groot?
No.
Okay. I think that just leaves us with Peter Quill,
Yeah.
Star Lord. Um,
Whole lot of
half.
childhood trauma, huh?
Oh yeah, daddy issues, mommy issues, all of the issues.
Yeah. Got
Do you
pushed
think
out of that hospital room by his granddad.
is it is it? I don't know if this is obvious or not, but he didn't go back to Earth, right? Like
No, he hasn't been back.
he could though, right? Like literally he could if he wanted, because he has his own
Technically,
ship.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought.
Um,
Oh, he was from Missouri. That explains so
mm,
much.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, uh, he is kind of just like a bit of a jerk sometimes. Really cocky, really funny. I do have, especially towards the beginning of the film, had like a slight weirdness about it being Chris Pratt just because of Parks and Rec,
Sure.
but it
But
kind of
then
wore.
most people
It
had
was
that.
fine.
Most people had
Yeah.
that. I didn't because I hadn't seen Parks and Rec at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I get it. I can understand because obviously I've retroactively seen Parks and Rec now, and yeah, I can imagine the jump that is made here is a bit like whoa, okay.
I mean, it's funny because he kind of plays like dumb characters in both, but
Hmm.
like in wildly different ways.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, there is like the endearing stupidity to both characters,
Yeah, he's
which I think is just
definitely a
like the
himbo.
Chris Pratt part of it that he just can very
Yeah,
easily bring that to his roles. Um,
yeah.
but again, like I said with Batista, I think it's inspired casting because you look at Parks and Rec and you're like, well, could that guy really play a lead superhero in a sci-fi film? But James Gunn believed in him, and fair play to Chris Pratt. He put in the work and shaped up, and obviously it's paid off. So you know,
Yeah.
I can't. Again, it's easy to say because this is the only version of this film that we have. But in my head, it is very hard to imagine another actor executing the script and the physical comedy and um, the quirks and whatnot of Star Lord like Chris Pratt does.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you genuinely, do you think that he was the first person that got offered the role
no,
though?
no, no, no. It's confirmed he wasn't.
Okay.
I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but there was somebody who like basically had the gig, like almost got just offered it flat out, and it was like an unspoken done deal kind of thing. Um, but
What actors
then it might have been
auditioned?
scheduling or something that meant it couldn't happen. So
Who was
then,
considered was one of 200 actors.
yeah, I mean, plenty of people auditioned.
Zachary Levi and Glenn Howerton?
Yeah, it was Zachary Levi.
I
I
don't even know
remember.
who that is.
Um, Play Shazam. Not a great person, seemingly.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
he is
Yep.
technically in the MCU though.
Ew.
That's technically future spoilers, but it really doesn't matter. Yes, he almost had it, but
Okay. Well, I'm glad he doesn't.
yeah.
Although I I mean, I don't I feel like I'm just very neutral on Chris Pratt. I don't love him, I don't hate him. I'm just like he's just Chris Pratt, you know?
I think he's a very capable actor. I think the issue, more so than anything, particularly it might be more difficult for you watching it in 2023, is that he is, in my opinion, just overexposed at this point. Like he is in too much stuff, and we have seen too much of him too frequently.
I don't think
So I
I've
think that
seen him
that
in much.
kind of compounds the issue, or not necessarily like actively watch the films, but you're seeing trailers for things with him all the time, whether it's Jurassic Park or whether it's
Mm.
the countless streaming shows that he's done, or obviously subsequent MCU appearances. I think he is very good. It's just that he
Oh,
this
he's in the
might
Lego
no, I
movie?
mean yes, technically, Mario as well, and stuff like that, voice work. I
Yeah.
think not that he is only
I
good
haven't
at
seen him
doing
in
one
much.
thing. Not that he is only good at doing one thing, because I think he is a versatile actor. But
Mhm.
it's just that in most of the stuff he does, he is doing that one thing that he is very good at. So it's not only overexposure, but it is also he is playing, like you said, a lot of the same kinds of characters a lot of the time.
I feel like
Because
that kind of sucks though, because like I think if he did play a different kind of character, right, it would almost be like, oh, he's not this kind of person. Like he isn't this kind of character, and I think that that bias would end up showing anyways. Like if he tried to play like something different.
maybe, I mean, it could be a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. But we'll never know, right? It's
Yeah,
like maybe a
maybe we
completely
will know.
different spin on Star Lord could have worked. Maybe obviously not with this script and whatnot. It would have been a slightly different film, just conceptually from that level onwards. But um, yeah, it's clear that they tailored Star Lord around the kind of things that Chris Pratt does well,
Hmm.
rather than the other way around. You know, Chris Pratt didn't really transform outside of the physical aspect, didn't really transform in terms of his character work that
Yeah.
much, which is fine. It's not a bad thing inherently, but it's just that he has done that a lot, both before this and since this film. So it can feel a little bit. I've had this taste before, you know, um, overexposure, repetitiveness thing I'm talking about. So maybe it's that a little bit. Who
Okay.
knows?
Who knows? I think it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
I
still
don't
good.
think I do have to say I was looking up the woman who plays Gamora,
Hmm.
and I've seen her in a lot more stuff than I thought I had,
She is very
which
prolific.
freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, first of all, she was in Drumline."
Yes.
Shout out to Drumline.
That wasn't the film I thought you were going to mention, of all the films, but
Yeah,
here we are.
she was in Drumline. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, she's a Star Trek Avatar.
Hmm.
Let's see. She's just in a lot of stuff, which I think is interesting. She was in I Kill Giants, which shout out to that film. Yeah, more Avatar.
Yeah.
Lots more Avatar coming.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. Characters are good. Let's see. Is there any other? I think we've done most everything. Is there any other themes that you wanted to touch on?
None that we haven't touched.
Okay,
I don't think so. The
I
whole
will.
theme of finding your family and
Mm-hmm.
growing out of trauma and that kind of stuff.
Trauma,
Yeah.
fun. It's
It can be. It can be, as long as the
can it?
characters get past it.
Oh, That wouldn't make the trauma fun. That would make the getting past it.
But you know what I mean. As a plot device, it is a good thing for character growth.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's necessary, but yes. I will say, okay, for people who don't like English classes, just tune out for a second, just because I wanted to nerd out just for a second. Okay, the thing I was talking about with the ships, which I think is really interesting, is obviously we're talking about like all of these like chosen family connections, whatever. These ships literally connect, and it's like it's cool because it's like humanity connections to save the city. And I thought that was super cheesy, and I was like, oh my god, cool. Anyways, that was it.
I can't say I've ever heard that take before, but
Yeah, because like
it's a
the
valid
connection
one.
between humans saved their city. So, but then the ships
I
literally
mean, they're
connect.
not. They're not humans, but
People, no, people would still be humans.
yeah. I mean, technically they're Xandarians, but
Yeah, well, because there has to be more than Xandarians in those ships that are connecting. Like I'm sure there's people from other planets and stuff. So
sure. But
what would the neutral
that's like
term be
saying.
though?
Well, I mean, technically it's Nova Corps, isn't it? That's doing
Mm,
it.
the Novacorians.
Well, no. The Nova Corps is just the organization.
Yeah,
But
I know.
they are from Xandar. They live on Xandar, so it would
But I'm
be
just talking like in
Xandarian.
terms of like if people isn't a good neutral term and humans isn't a good neutral term, you're right. But like what would be a word that
I'm
refers
just
to
being pedantic.
I know, but now I'm interested. But it's fine.
Well,
I'll look it
I
up
would
later.
say Xandarian because that is very specific to they live on that planet, regardless of what species they are. So they are Xandarian
Hmm.
Nova Corps forces.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we've
Sure.
got a Lego Guardians ship up there.
You have really cool Legos. I want to get more Legos, but I don't have space. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm being patient. I really want to get the Hogwarts Lego set and then
Mm.
get like the illustrated editions of Harry Potter, which those books are very expensive for those that aren't familiar. And then do like all the illustrated books with like the Hogwarts. Anyways, I'm waiting patiently. How do you move with Legos also? I have a tree back there. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I have a cherry blossom Lego tree. I don't know what I'm going to do when I move. What are you going to
Um,
do when you move?
um, probably just like. Well, I would deconstruct it to the point where if there is anything that is very easily breakable off, I would just attach that in large segments.
Do you just like
And
put it in like
then
a giant Ziploc bag or?
no, because that's they would break apart in the bag. I would probably just like bubble wrap it in those segments, and
Okay.
then tightly pack them in somewhere so they can't like bounce around whilst you're traveling.
Okay.
And then you can just
Interesting.
reconnect the big segments rather than having to completely rebuild or try and keep it fully intact as you're traveling and then having to pick up random pieces and you don't know where they came from.
Okay. Interesting.
That
All
would
right. Well,
be
that was a
my plan.
tangent.
Yeah.
Okay. Ranking.
Mm,
Um, I'll go first this time.
okay.
Unless I go first last time? I can't remember. No, you went first last
Maybe.
time. I
Doesn't
think
really
you went
matter.
first. Okay. This will be number one for me. I think that's
Oh,
pretty easy. I would
nice.
say it's number one by a pretty large margin. But
Interesting.
not only did it have plot like Winter Soldier, but it actually was good. Just kidding.
That's one hell of a hot take. Didn't you
Winter
put Winter
Soldier.
Soldier at number one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's two. So it's like
Yeah.
you're talking
But
about it as if it's
it's
down
like
in last
number
place.
two, you
Oh,
know?
okay. Yeah. All right. All right. I'm going to be putting it in third place,
No way.
just below Avengers.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You
But
know
then
nothing.
again, this is why it's interesting is because I'm coming at it from a retroactive thing. I know I have to judge these films individually, and I am, but with hindsight in mind and having so much time to digest the films, and I've watched them so many times, I think not that this film has necessarily gotten any worse, but I just think that um, it's difficult to say without spoilers. But like, I think there's just as if I'm to defend it, I think you know what I'm like. I like the sort of darker tonally
Oh
things.
yeah.
So that's why Winter Soldier is still number one. And then two, Avengers. I just think that whilst the thing I love both about Guardians and Avengers is the character interplay, right? In the groups as they
Hmm.
come together and form. I just think that there is a more dynamic and varied character interplay going on in Avengers. Um,
Interesting. I don't
and
think I would agree with that, but
the Guardians is still great, and it's obviously just a different kind of interplay. Um, but I just think that I think the characters on the whole are more three-dimensional in Avengers than they currently are in this first Guardians film. I think that there is an argument to be made that the character interplay is better, but I think that the characters themselves that is happening in between isn't quite as strong. And obviously, the Avengers has a leg up because we've seen some of those characters in solo films before, but still, again, I have to take it project by project, and I think that that's why Avengers is just above. It is close, don't get me wrong, but it is why I would put Avengers just above Guardians.
okay. I think you're wrong. I think you're crazy, but that's fine. Um, okay. Anything else you wanted to say about this film?
Uh, it's I said it last week. I said it last time with Winter Soldier that Winter Soldier was kind of like a paradigm shift. Everything before Winter Soldier and everything after. This is kind of like continuing that streak where off of the success of Winter Soldier and then going to something completely refreshing like Guardians. Um, it does it. Guardians
Oh
the
yeah, they
film
came out in the same year. Hmm.
has redefined the MCU, I think, more so than something like Winter Soldier, because they found the kind of plot structure that hits really well. They found the humor that hits really well because this is aiming for far more comedy than any other MCU film thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that this has a fundamental impact on stuff going forwards, which I think you'll see reflected quite often and quite frequently.
Okay.
So very important film, I think.
Okay.
I'd be very interested to see where the MCU would be now if something like the Guardians hadn't happened. Would it even still be a thing?
That's a really good question.
Because
I
this was like the breath of fresh air that not everybody was clamoring for, but I think proved that Marvel weren't just a one trick kind of pony, you know?
yeah, I also think that like at least from my recollection of what was going on at the time, I feel like this got a lot more people into Marvel
It did.
Cinematic Universe. Like
100%.
it was almost
Yeah.
like a gateway drug.
Yeah.
So,
The viral kind of the licensed songs, they all became instantly iconic and connected to this film
mhm.
specifically. And, you know, even casual fans could be like, when this song played, I know that this was happening in the film, that kind of stuff. And that kind of inherently builds that kind of emotional connection to it that maybe
Yeah.
fans, casual moviegoers wouldn't have had otherwise with previous MCU projects. So
Yeah.
God bless the Guardians, man, just in general.
Yeah.
God bless
It was
them.
good. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, so next we're watching the um MCU Transformers crossover, Avengers Age of Ultron. Tell me that doesn't sound like Transformers.
You're not you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm
And
gonna be
hey,
honest.
maybe that comment might actually prove to be
Oh
more
god.
accurate than you're thinking.
Oh god. That makes me not want to watch. I'm like already okay, so I don't love Transformers. I'm not even gonna lie about it.
Mm.
So I've like this film and then Ant-Man, I'm like both kind of like dreading. So
I'm not going to preempt your opinions. I think with both of those things that you just mentioned, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, next Avengers Age of Ultron. So we will see in listener time in 2 weeks. We'll see you and watch that. Okay, and discuss it and all that fun stuff. So
Yep.
thank you guys so much for taking the time to hang out with us today. And a special shout out to our current patrons. We have Bucky Blue, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotwright, Dave Harp, and the Xbox Expansion Pass, and Apaka Tom. Where can people find you?
Oh, this is going to get interesting, isn't it? You can
We're
find me.
future proof this
Yeah.
so hard because this is a while away.
You can find me on Twitter or X, or maybe by the time that this goes live, Threads or Blue Sky or something. It will be at Samini, Heaney.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. You can
I
find
tried
me.
to future proof. I tried. God knows
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. Who knows? Okay. You can find me at Fabulous Brianna. That's FABULISTBREANNA. Pretty much anywhere. I am on Threads if you really want.
We'll be in the Discord either way, you know.
Yeah,
If you're
coming
that
out in the Discord. That's actually okay.
the
I will caveat
safest.
that. Join the Discord. Understand that Sam doesn't really talk to anybody. He lurks.
I'm a busy person. Okay, I'm sorry.
He
I
lurks.
chime in when I
So
can. I
I
ping
just
in
want to
a
temper.
news
I
thing.
just want to temper expectations so people aren't like, oh, I want to join the Discord so I can discuss things with Sam. It just
It might happen, you know.
it
If you
might.
cross your fingers and wish on a star,
I'll tell you the
maybe
trick.
things will align.
Watch a show that he likes, go into the frame by frame channel, and then maybe you'll get his attention.
I'm not sure how consistent that is as a
It's not.
tactic, but
It's not. That's why I said
we're
maybe.
wishing on a prayer, you know. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
maybe.
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We'll see you again 2 weeks your time. When we watch Avengers Age of Ultron. Okay. Bye.
Bye.